He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
Jan's married.
I'm back with an extra ring.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
We actually got some congratulations comments.
I saw.
That's
People
great.
are so sweet. Thank you.
They're great. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So back from the happiness of a wedding into the pure hell of the mortgage minds. Okay, right? Well, you sum it up.
You know, it was my favorite because it was a holiday.
Yeah.
You know how I like my holidays.
We all like our holidays for sure. Like everybody always asks me, what are you doing, Ron? Or what are you doing on the weekend? I always say the same thing. Long weekend. I always say the same thing. I don't care. I value every extra day off. I don't necessarily have to do anything. I'm just pleased there's a day off. Okay. Anyway, I am. I've always been that way.
We need more days off, but
we have a lot of days off in Canada.
Not enough.
Not enough. Yeah, Jesus, you don't want to start talking about how many days off they get in places like Indonesia. It's like half, but anyway. That's
my
okay.
sister's in the UK and she gets 6 weeks of summer, but she has like weeks off throughout the whole year, like an extra 5 weeks off throughout the whole year.
Europe has an obsession about summer holidays. They really do. I mean, like I think the whole country of Italy shuts down for in August. Yeah. Hey, everybody go home. Go all holidays. We're going to shut the country down. Well, not the poor guys who have to look after the tourists, but
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So what's going on in mortgage world and real estate world? I'll talk about sort of basically an Ontario phenomenon, although I'm told that it's somewhat happening in BC. And look, real estate's local, right? Like Alberta could be going great. Quebec can be okay. Atlantic, all right. But when I just think about what's going on in Ontario for the last, I'm going to say 2.5, 3 weeks, it's like somebody turned off the lights on real estate for the last 3 weeks. Like I'm serious. Like I talked to real estate agents and I'm hearing things like, yep, listings are piling up. We have showings and nothing sells. Well, nobody comes to the open houses. Like it's just
no way.
It's awful. Yeah.
This is the same Ontario that had crazy bidding wars just a few months ago.
Well, maybe not. There were a few bids in the year. Like in January, you're right. There were a few multiple bids, although it never got to true crazy town 2021 end of the fucking world levels. Okay. Like, I mean, I think when we look back in 2021, even for the next decade or so, we're going to say to ourselves, 2021 was the craziest fucking real estate year in the history of crazy and real estate. Both crazy and real estate, both combined. Craziest fucking year.
It'll be one for the history books.
And, you think back, like some people bought their house at the end of that year and also in the first quarter of 2022. And that was the absolute peak of pricing. I would tell you that in most suburbs, like we talk about outside of Toronto, the far suburbs, like Brampton and Newmarket, and people in BC are tuning out right now. They're saying, "Oh, I listened to this bullshit from this guy." Anyway, they're far. They're far from the core of Toronto, and I think I think those prices are down 30%. Right now.
Yikes!
Depending if you were really, really enthusiastic, if you bought at the worst possible moment, 25% anyway, for sure. So what happened? It's just slowed down to a crawl. Like it's just slowed to nothing. I got some theories. We all got theories, right? Why is it suddenly so slow? Now, people will start to argue now, oh, well, Ron, the summer's almost here and summer's very slow and Canadians like to go out and, enjoy their summers, which is fucking true.
Yeah.
Okay.
We get such short summers. We
Fucking
make the most out of it.
3 months. Get after it, baby. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's it. We just got to enjoy it while it's here. Really, we do. We really, really do. But it might be a little bit more than that because in some ways in Ontario, there wasn't that much of a spring market. Spring market was like January and February and then petered out.
Yeah.
So I think some of it is that people were faked out on rate cuts so many fucking times. People in December, people were promising March rate cuts. Yeah, Bank of Canada going to cut. Federal Reserve of the States going to cut. Well, that didn't fucking happen. By the way, just for all the folks out there who think that I said that they were going to cut, I never said that. You remember we used to have announcements where I announced the day before there'd be no cut, right? Yeah. So anyway,
we were hopeful it was one thing, but
no, I always said there's no cuts. There's no cuts in the spring. I was never going to be any cuts. But a lot of people said there would be, and wow, there was promise of it's just going to be April then.
So then people
Cuts
are
in
just
April.
holding out on purchasing because they're waiting for these cuts, essentially.
Well, they've been faked out too many times. Some people took out, said, cuts are coming. They went out and bought in February and said, okay, cuts are coming, so real estate's going to take off. No cuts. Okay, no cuts. I'm not really that sure. I personally, it's no longer a slam dunk. But as I said on the last pod, I don't really believe there's going to be a June cut.
Yeah.
Now, there will be cuts. They will come from the Bank of Canada. But if you've been faked out by you bought in January expecting a March rate cut, that did not fucking happen. So
then theoretically, there's probably a bunch of people who bought on a variable, if they qualified, of course. They were waiting, and now they're paying through the roof, waiting on those cuts. So then now people who are like, I could have done the same, they're probably like, let me just wait because it's rough.
Yes,
What's variable at right now?
And we had
7, 6.
Variable is around 6.2, 6.4, 6.6. Okay.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Not everyone qualifies there.
Yeah, because you add 2% for the stress test. That's exactly right. So if you're 6.4, you're 8.4. Good fucking luck.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's where you get 11 people on a mortgage.
Yeah, we got it. Hey, Mom, Dad, is Grandpa still alive? I'm not sure. Okay, we need co-signers, baby. Look, I mean, I think it's just a bunch of head fakes, and people started to say, fuck, I'm just gonna wait till there actually is a fucking cut. I'm not gonna do a fucking thing till I see rates come down. Nothing. I'm doing nothing. By the way, that doesn't guarantee that the market takes off when rates are cut. I am not one of those people. Okay, I just finished doing a YouTube about it. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that at all. Okay, I mean, there's lots of other things going on in the economy and going on in the marketplace that might prevent prices from taking off this year, next year. Who the hell knows? I mean, it's one of the most volatile times in the real estate business I've ever experienced. I am I'm not sure as shit not making predictions on house prices. Okay, not at all. But what is going on? So really, there are listings. We mentioned previous pods that it seems to be like that sort of dog crate condo inventory is going up substantially, and investors think I'm going to sell. Again, the simple concept is that for some investors, they've given up. They've said, I can't run negative cash flow. I'm putting $500 against this thing every month because the condo fees and the property tax and the mortgage payment are less than the rent I'm getting. So I give up. I got to sell.
Yeah.
That's reality. And that's a growing group. Now, what we've noticed is they don't seem to want to really cut the shit out of prices, though. That's what we've noticed. They get listed, but they don't necessarily sell. Okay. So we're seeing that a little bit on houses, too. Townhouses, low-rise buildings. There's listings. There are listings. But like the realtor said to me just last week, he says, if it's really well priced, it might sell. But if it's not really well priced, it doesn't sell at all. Like there's not even many people coming through.
And I'm sure there's not that many people who are desperate to sell either. So
Good point.
prices are not really, they're not going to come down significantly.
That's a good point, and that's worthy of an explanation. So when prices are rolling up, when we go back to that strange year of 2021,
Yeah.
when prices are rising rapidly, in many ways that's a function of what we saw in 2021 and the first quarter of 2022, multiple bids on houses.
Bidding wars.
Bidding wars, okay? Now, bidding wars accelerate prices dramatically, because let's face it, if you're running a auction system, a sort of a secret auction system by which you put a price out that you know is going to attract a lot of eyeballs. We all heard the bullshit stories of the 85 offers and stuff, okay? So, because the pricing was priced too low. But that kind of a situation pushes what we call the marginal buyer, pushes the marginal buyer to their absolute limits, gets them to overcommit, and prices can go up rapidly. You know, we were watching prices in, say, Ajax, which is a suburb of Toronto, far-off suburb of Toronto, far east. And we watched prices in 2021. Some neighborhoods went up 35% in a year.
Holy crap.
Fucking year, okay?
That's not like even GTA.
That's not rational, right? I mean,
Wow.
but if you get enough of an auction, if you get like 6, 8, 9 months of straight auction madness, you're going to see incredible price increases. So now on the way down, to your point, people don't necessarily have to sell, right? So they might want to sell. They put out something on offer and they say, wow, I'm not getting any action at all. But maybe if I just hang in, maybe there'll be a rate cut. and then it'll come down. So I would suggest to you that on the way up, there can be so much froth, so much excitement, so much FOMO, okay, that prices accelerate dramatically. On the way down, you need two things. You need people in real trouble who must sell, or the bank will sell it for them, okay, sadly. We haven't seen that much of that yet, okay. And that normally takes some time to happen. And then finally, we have what they call in the stock market capitulation. We have the moment in time when people look around and say, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to get my price. To get my price. I've been waiting forever. I give up. Just drop it to the point where it sells. That's capitulation. That normally takes time. Okay. Well, I bought a house in Toronto once, Peel region. Bought a house in Mississauga in 1995. And I bought that house for nearly 37% less than the person paid for it.
Wow.
6 years earlier. Yeah, because the 89 was another 2021. 88, 89 was peak insanity in the real estate market. People were buying, that particular house was bought on it's going to be starting to come really a coincidence, but it was bought as a pre-sale. Took 16 months to build. Guy moved in, paid $369. We paid like nearly $100,000 less.
Holy crap!
Yeah, that's that. But it took him, but it took him 5 years to give up.
Wow.
5 years to give up.
Yeah.
Now, as interestingly enough, a kind of maybe some similarity to today. He was a real estate agent. He was a part-time real estate agent, full-time teacher. Wife was a teacher, and they just had the worst possible timing.
Shut.
Rates were higher then. Rates were actually in the 6s. Okay, when he bought, rates were in the high 5s, which was considered great for those days. Because again, we're talking about it was only a 368 purchase for a big house, right?
On that price, that's reasonable.
You could manage it. You could
Yeah.
manage it, but then there was just no action, and that's what I refer to as capitulation. He just gave up after 5 years. He moved in, thought he could flip it, couldn't flip it, thought he could make more money. That was perfectly impossible. He hung in, finally gave up.
Do you feel like we're seeing that with the condos right now?
I have no idea, because here's the difference. these condos are only meant for people who want to use them as a rental.
Yeah.
Like, does anybody actually want a 420 square foot
It's a very,
condo?
very small percentage of people who actually move into the condo they've purchased.
Yes.
That's that tiny, of course.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
dog crate condo was effectively built just for investors, my opinion. It was meant to just rent out to people who were working,
Airbnbs or rentals.
or people working in those office towers.
Yeah.
Like there was a lifestyle, I can tell you there's a lifestyle in 2019 before COVID where people would hardly spend any time in their condo, right? Like they'd be in the sports bar, they'd be in a restaurant, they'd be at work,
Yeah.
they'd be out seeing their friends, whatever.
It was literally somewhere to lay their head and to keep their stuff safe, and that was it.
And I get a coffee in the morning,
Yeah.
or not, or go down to get a coffee down in the lobby, or start down
Exactly.
on the bottom level, or whatever,
Yeah.
or just like people. I don't think people even ate there, to be honest with you, in that little dog crate condo. It was just a pure rental for office people, young people, single people in offices. So if that dynamic has changed, yeah. But who actually says, damn, I've always wanted this 420 square foot place where there's no storage at all, no parking space, and kitchen's so small you'd have to no, two people could never cook in it. Like two people can't live in this thing at all. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the attraction of that for the owner occupant, right? For the person to say, yeah, I really want to own that. So to your question, damn good question. Will that happen to those condos? It's interesting because that could be a category that the price has to fall so far. It's only of interest to investors again.
Right.
But these interest rates, to be good for investors, again, I think it has to be in the 300s. It's being offered in the 5s. Okay, so, there might be, it's not like buying a house. Like when that guy gave up on the house in 1995 and said, I got to sell it what price I can get, there was people willing to buy. To live in it, right? I'm happy to buy this house. It's a good area, This price seems okay. I'll buy. Okay. That ain't true of a 385 square foot condo. Okay?
No.
That maybe not true at all. So yes, that is an important issue I think that's obvious. It's just like if not as many people want that product, then is it just going to have to go really low? Which brings us to another interesting thing about downtowns and also is commercial real estate. I'm watching some stories on commercial real estate, posts on commercial real estate in the United States that are just incredible. Like the building's fallen 75% in value. Okay.
Wow.
Like the landlord, the guy quit paying. The mortgage company had the mortgage on it, comes to sell it, and that's all they can get. So the mortgage company takes the loss. The guy who bought it the first time's wiped out. Holy shit. Disaster.
You think that's because of all the hybrid or work from home stuff?
It's got to be an influence, right? Now, in the States, it could just be two things. It could be overbuilding, because in the States, they don't build like we do. Okay, they don't build offices like we do. They actually sometimes build offices on spec. Like, I don't have any anchor tenants. I haven't gone out and found an anchor tenant. I haven't done any of that stuff. I just think it's a good time to build an office building, and let's throw it up and let's see what happens. That way you get too much of them, right? Then you get too much of them. It starts to kill the whole. And some of them were offices, and like, I don't know how many people need an office in Kansas City. Like, I think there's probably enough office space. They don't need any more. So not to beat them up, but to your point, what is going to happen about work from home in Toronto?
I feel like it's a huge shift because there's a lot of like buildings, like especially older offices that are just being torn down to be built into condos, right? So they don't meet the aesthetic, right? So there's that, and there's also just people don't want to come into the office anymore.
No, people don't want to come to the office, but like, they may have to. But some people won't. Some people will never come back. That's for sure.
Or the hybrid is very common too. Very
couple
common.
days a week.
Yeah, like 3 days in office, 2 days from home.
Your point's a very good point, because like I went down to one of the lenders' offices. I've been actually down to two of the lenders' offices, the big lenders. One's a bank and one's another huge lender in Canada. Went down to their head offices. They're new. It's like a friggin' wellness place. Okay, like it was.
They've got a spa on the main floor.
High ceilings. There was like a ping pong table bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge cafeteria with like free stuff, and one of them had a putting green. For the love of God, okay, on the outside. Now they didn't build that themselves. They took it over from the tenants who were there before. I mean, like, it was wild. Like,
it was like fun.
It was wild though. Like, it was really modern architecture. There's a huge atrium right in the middle of it. Like, I mean, friggin' huge. It was massive, and there was like, it was set up so that if the people wanted to put, it was like almost a theater style, so that there was like, but not theater. It was theater you could lie down. Like, it was like couches and shit in the atrium area, staggered up. So if somebody wanted to put on like a town hall meeting or something, you get the whole group in there. Yeah, meet in the atrium, right? And like, and the other one had this like there was like, it was custom made. Again, high ceilings, like beanbag chairs and shit. I mean, like, it was
so hip,
so hip. Okay. So I think, if you're an old office building, it's kind of old and nasty.
Yeah,
you might be fucked.
Yeah. Like, there's these offices, you know, the ones across from Sherway Gardens.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I drive past them coming to the office
right off
every
the QE.
day. Yeah, because I take the QE. We'll get to the QE later, but I drive in. That's how I drive into the office. It's a short drive. But yeah, now, if this all sounds like inside Toronto stuff, sorry, folks, but I think it does illustrate some things that are going on with offices all over Canada. Like, I spoke to a woman last week who told me that in Vancouver, fuck all, nobody's going back to the office. Like it's like, I think here their banks and big financial companies are pushing people to come back. But apparently in Vancouver, if you push an employee to come back to the office of Vancouver, they just tell you to fuck yourself. Okay, and they don't come. Okay, that's what she told me. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in Vancouver. You guys in Vancouver? Hey, the fans of Vancouver, you let us know. I mean, is that true? Like, just come. Hey, you got to come back to the office 3 days a week. No, fuck yourself. Maybe one. Okay, all right. Let us know
and give us some tips.
True or false?
Sorry, Ron.
No, Jesus, don't start. Okay, wow. But yeah, I drive past that.
Yeah, and you see how they're tearing down the white building, right?
Yeah, there's like one building is disappearing. Like, every time I drive by, there's some more bits of it down.
Yeah.
And it just keeps cutting by. But it's a small space they're operating in. They can't shut the road. So they're doing it like piece by piece.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. So my mom actually works in that building, the orange one. And she said that they moved everyone from the white building over into the orange one because it was so empty.
Okay.
And they just sold the land or to developers or whatever, and they're building a condo there now. Because, and mind you, these buildings are old. Like,
that was
those like classic old buildings,
like a 75-year-old building,
rundown buildings,
and shitty.
And she tells me all the time, like, tenants come and go all the time because, like, one of their biggest ones back before COVID was L'Oreal, and obviously work from home and all that stuff. So they moved out, but they didn't actually do fully work from home. They moved out like down the street because rent was too expensive for a rundown shitty building with no cool amenities.
Oh man, you just hit the nail on the head. The rents are so fucking high. Yeah. Yes, folks, let me tell you about Toronto and Vancouver. The rents for urban locations are so, every location, commercial office rents are so fucking high still. They went through COVID, they've maybe come down 1%, for fuck's sakes. I mean, so you see what happens.
Yeah.
They're so committed to high rents. Fuck, if we can't make it work, we're going to tear the fucking building down and sell it for a condo. Yeah. Okay? Like,
exactly.
Wow. Look, let's just face facts. High rents are poison. High rents poison everything. They make it, businesses might want to bring people back, but the high rents make businesses think, fuck, should I make it smaller? You know, like, should I make it smaller?
Should I just downgrade? Yeah.
Expensive property eventually poisons everything. That's the truth. But yeah, I drive by that and a little bit of it comes down every day. Yeah. A little chunk of it comes off and disappears. Okay.
And all the traffic, because it's only one lane on I think it's like Evans or something like that.
That's fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah. But don't get off there.
Yeah, do not get off there. Absolutely. Now, the truth is though, that's in some ways, that's another good example. It's a good example of how that's just being repurposed. Like, that's not anybody probably taking a huge loss on it. They just sold it to the condo, probably did okay.
Developers and called it a day. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what we see downtown Toronto is that even the A-class buildings seem to be the very best, newest buildings seem to be doing fine. There's a few that are not doing fine. But the mortgage holders are pension plans. In a lot of cases, they're few banks, but a lot of pension plans own those buildings. And they're the landlords. And they don't need to write anything off quick. They're patient money.
Yeah.
Like when you think about the U.S., when you're building that building on spec and it doesn't work out, and you're just sort of a fly-by-night company who's behind it,
desperate to get rid of that.
You just go broke.
Yeah.
Okay. I got news for everybody. Teacher's pension plan is not going broke.
That's for sure.
Homer's is not going broke. Brookfield's not going broke. Okay. None of those companies are going broke. So they're patient. They can wait. Okay, we're going to do this and that, and we'll just be patient to try to fill the place up again. But I think some of the B and C locations will maybe get torn down. We'll
get turned into condos.
Now, ways that I talk about it is that eventually that has an effect. Like I told you, they defend the high rents forever until it breaks. Just like my story about 1995. Like it can take a long time before people throw in the towel and the rents, expensive rents really come down.
Yeah.
And that is a whole different story that I think is just playing out right now. All right. So what's the rate story today? All right. Rates haven't changed too much. There's hardly any change. 3 years about the same as it was. 5 year just came off just a touch. I think there's sort of that look forward to when the rate cuts start. The 5 year will come down somewhere. But again, folks, when I talk about that change, it's a tiny change. Okay, when 10 basis points really doesn't mean anything to anybody. The truth we're told. Okay, I mean it's just not. It's not that. Don't get me wrong. I get when you're shopping for a mortgage, it's important, and you are right. It is important, and you should save your 10 basis points. In other words, instead of 4.69, it's 4.59. Okay. Yes, save your money. Okay. That's actually our business model at Butler Mortgage. That's why we're here. But in terms of what your actual payment is, it's not that much. Okay. And whether you qualify, it's kind of meaningless. A 10 basis point change is kind of meaningless.
Yeah.
But I'll get back to your point about variable, because that's something we're going to have to think more about, because there will be a rate cut in July or September or one of those.
This year for sure. According to your bet.
According to the bet. People are mad about the bet. They say, you're focusing on the bet, you bastard. Okay, well, all right. So we'll drop the bet story. But anyway, the bottom line, let's just look at some math. So if you've got a variable and the Bank of Canada drops rates, let's say 1.5% over the next year and a bit. Okay. Let's just even say a year and a half, all the way to the end of 2025. Well, then your rate that you're actually paying on, and by the way, you better make sure that when you do this, you probably use one of those banks where the payment goes down, right? Because if you can barely afford it when you get it, you want it to go down. So in some banks, it's going to be, look, the rates come way down. What about my payment, Mr. Bank and Mrs. Bank? And they're going to say, no, fuck, the payment doesn't change. You just pay off your mortgage quicker. Oh, no.
That's.
I thought the plan was the payment goes down. And nah, sometimes it doesn't go down at all. So make sure you understand that product perfectly. And there's lots of that product out there. The payment goes down when the rate goes down. Or maybe you just want to pay your mortgage off faster and you go the other way. So here's the important thing to know. You're going to be paying, your mortgage interest rate will drop. If you have a 1.5 drop, let's just say that happens, your interest rate is now down to 4.7, 4.5, which is better than today for sure. Maybe not great, but what if it goes down 2 full percent? What if the Bank of Canada goes from today's 5% all the way down to 3%?
Wishful thinking.
That's not impossible.
Well, slowly.
18 months. Let's use the same thing, 18 months. Okay. 18 months is actually a long time. Okay. In rate world. Okay. Long time. Now your interest rate is 4.2, for example. Okay. 4.2, not bad, right? I mean, that's, you can live with that.
Yeah.
People can live with, based on what we've gone through for the last 2 years, not bad.
Sure.
Not bad at all. Okay. So is it a valid strategy? Is variable a valid strategy? Folks, God, I sound like Doug Ford when I say folks, right? Like,
Folks.
folks, hey, folks. Let me tell you, we're gonna put the beer in the corner store now, folks. That's
And we're going to close the gardener.
but no, yeah, right.
We'll get there.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can't get to the ball game, but you can drink the beer at home because we're gonna have beer in the corner store, and you can be drunk and just walk to the corner store and get more beer. What do you think? Okay, like that was an announcement today, right? Yeah. There's gonna be beer and wine and some booze in corner stores.
Quebec's just laughing at us because they're like, huh, you're late to the party.
That is so true. That is so absolutely fucking true. Like they're scratching their heads saying, these guys are so stupid.
Yeah.
You've been able to get the beer in the dépanneur for about 40 years, right? Like for
Holy
40 crap. Fucking years, 40, 50 years, you can get, anyway. I'll go back. But yeah, that's the great news for Ontario. I've never met a premier as obsessed with beer as Ford. Okay?
Do you remember the dollar beer?
Buck of beer, folks. We're going to have buck of beer here in Ontario because the hard-working man needs a beer. Okay, all right.
People
fine.
are homeless, Doug, but yeah, sure. A buck of beer.
Houses
priority straight.
Average house price is over $1 million, Doug, but beer is important. Okay. I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so if you'd like good news on beer, we got it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some good news on beer. But I'm serious. Like it's just crazy how we are obsessed with things that aren't really important. Like food, we should be obsessed with food banks and house prices. That's what we should think about. It's like beer is fine, but I mean it shouldn't.
It's not nutritional enough.
It shouldn't be the premier of the province's main focus,
No.
right? Yeah, let's avoid that. All right, so that's the story of the variable. When but you have to be well positioned, like because you're going to start
high
qualifying. You got to qualify in the eights, so you better be a very well qualified buyer if you want to use variable. But the question becomes: look, Ron. Won't fixed rates come down too? Okay, let me give you the proper answer to that. If we look back on history, since there was a variable rate product, which is only about 45 years, we haven't had variable for eternity. Okay, it's a relatively new product. So, if you look back on the history of variable typically is always at that exact moment in time the lowest cost option. Now it can turn on you like it did when you got a 1.1 variable in 2021, and now you're paying 6.35. Okay, like I mean, it really turned on you. Okay?
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, but from typically, if variable is at 4.2, 5 years going to be at about 4.5, 4.6. Okay. Don't get me wrong. High ratio variable will probably actually get below 4. Like at some point we may have a high ratio variable at like 3.85, 3.75. If that's the case, then high ratio 5 years is probably going to be about 4.29, 4.24, or 4.39. So there will be lower fixed rates, but traditionally, the bet on variable when it's going down isn't a bad bet. Okay, but qualification is trouble. Qualification, you're qualifying in the 8s today.
Yeah.
That ain't easy. All right, we got some viewer mail. Go ahead.
We do. This one says, my bank called and offered me an early renewal. I don't actually renew till December this year, but they said I could lock into a 5.59 5-year fixed. Okay,
so yeah. Definitely banks will offer, and some banks go on campaigns. They start phoning people and saying, "Hey, you're maybe you're at 3.09 now, but we have a great offer at 5.59 for you." I mean, but obviously there's not many takers, but we've been very consistent in our approach on this, and it would appear we were totally right. We've always said don't do it. Wait until the last minute, because if you got 309, pretty hard to go to 559.
You're gonna feel the difference.
And by December, I am just friggin' guaranteeing you that your rates are going to be lower than today. Okay, so makes no sense to lock, and particularly they make you lock into a 5. They don't make you lock into. They don't let you get a good rate on a 2 or a 3. They make you lock into a 5 years. So, folks, again, I sound like Doug. Hey, viewers, listeners, don't do it. Okay, just don't do it. If you've got a great rate, don't give it up till you have to. Just don't do it. Okay, like as we know that rates are coming down. By the way, rates have come down. Like we were talking about, but we were talking about all the rates that we knew of were in the high 5s, low 6s a year ago. Okay, that's not true anymore.
Yeah,
okay, they're down into the low 5s, mid 5s. So they will continue to come down. Simple as that. Okay.
This one says, my realtor wants me to get a bank pre-approval, not from a mortgage broker. Why would she say this?
You know, I do understand it. Like, obviously, I've got a reason. I are a mortgage broker. Okay, so I will say that I think we can do a very good job on pre-approvals. In some cases, better than a bank. But I think when I look at it, here is the reason a realtor might say that. A real estate agent could say that to a client. Banks can often, they can have no appraisals more often than a broker can. Like a lot of times a broker will need an appraisal. Don't get me wrong, tons of bank reps need an appraisal too. But sometimes, somehow, I don't know why, but sometimes the appraisals work out better for the bank reps. Okay, I don't know why it happens. So I also think that everybody just to this day feels more comfortable with a big 6 bank
Directly, yeah.
The realtor does. The realtor just wants to see a big 6 bank document in front of them. You know, that's good. We know we're good. Here's the real truth, though. You're not. Now, don't get me wrong. It depends on the mortgage broker. But if you're working with a real top flight mortgage broker, a real good mortgage broker does a thorough job of pre-approval, actually looks at your income. Like, by the way, you can get a pre-approval from a bank where they never look at your income. You can go online, say to RBC's pre-approval system, and they just spit in they'll give you a beautiful certificate, pre-approval. They've never looked at your actual income documents. Never.
That doesn't seem right.
Well, look, it's online. You know, they warn you, that they're working from your information.
Right.
But you might not understand that, okay, my income is X and I got a bonus last year of 40,000. So I'm probably going to get it again. So I'm going to put that into the system, like my salary plus 40.
Yeah.
But that might not work out at all in a real underwriting world. Okay. You've got to have professionals look at it. So, but I do not even blame the realtor. I believe that a great mortgage broker could do a better job. But let's face it. If you were a real estate agent and you got burned once by a mortgage broker on a pre-approval,
there's a vendetta there for the rest of your life.
You might just push people to the bank.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I'll be straight up. And it's also in some ways it can be a bit faster working with the bank. They can knock it out quicker. And I don't know. If you're a ancient real estate agent, like you're my age, like you're really over the hill and half, you're just literally, short time away from the dirt nap. Okay.
Oh my God.
Like, I mean, seriously.
Nap.
But if you're that, honest to God, my neighbor sold across the street from us just this month, and the agent was 80. Yeah, the real estate agent was like 80. It was unbelievable. God. Okay. Real estate agents never quit. I mean, because they've got clients, and if one has to sell, if some old client has to sell, I might as well get the commission, man. I want it.
Damn.
So listen, if you're an old, elderly real estate agent, you probably want to see a bank. I don't trust these mortgage brokers. I don't know. It wasn't like that in my day, says the 80-year-old real estate agent. All right. So one topic. I think this is a valid point, and it's mysterious, and it's not well understood, but I actually think it's going on right now. I think some types of foreign capital coming into Canada to buy real estate have stopped.
Like specifically, I know Chinese money is not coming in as much because I think they have real estate issues out there too.
100%. That's exactly
that's
correct.
Probably putting a hold on people buying foreign. Right.
Well, just getting money out, because here's the way I view it. And you're dead right. They have a real estate. hey, the real estate is getting so weird in China. The government is talking about buying condos.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about buying strata units themselves. Like, we're going to buy up this whole building, so the construction company doesn't go broke because there's no sales in that building.
Yeah.
Like, they built ghost cities there, right? There's
a
in the
lot
city.
of ghost cities. Yeah.
So that's, if your government proposes that they're going to buy up empty buildings to save the construction industry, that's pretty bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think when there's economic pressure on people who have, bought real estate and expected to flip it in China and it ain't flipping, and that means there's no cash to come to Canada, I think that's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never hear the stories that I used to hear about people walking in when the condo pre-sales open, which by the way, none of them open. They just open and close in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But people used to tell me, oh yes, guys would come in from China and they'd buy 10 units at once.
Mm-hmm.
They'd put, 20% down on 10 units. Huge money, huge. Nobody says that anymore. That doesn't exist. So that may be one interesting thing to consider in Canadian real estate. Is it, and it's always unknown, right? Like nobody puts up their hand and says, yes, I've come here to bring $3 million from China and buy real estate. No, nobody puts up their hand and says that. Okay?
Keeping it like low key.
It's very low key. So even though obviously in some cities and some parts of some cities, it's huge. Okay. It's just self-evident. It's obvious. You can just see it with your own eyes, but that's okay. But but is there going to be a ton more coming out of China? A ton more money coming out of China? It doesn't seem like it to me.
Couldn't the slowdown just make it easier for Canadians to potentially buy?
Well, we got to just sit back and watch, right? We don't know those answers yet. But it is something I've heard. And now I'm sounding like Trump. Yeah. People were saying, people are saying, okay, I heard, this is what I heard. Okay. So Jesus Christ, he says that crazy shit. But I have heard. So we're going to keep an eye on in the coming months. Will a sudden change in the influx of investment in real estate from money coming in from out of Canada, will that have a major impact? We're going to think more of that in the coming months. All right, brings us to our favorite part of the program.
What the actual fuck?
And I started to talk about this fucking shittery, and I pulled myself back. It's too Toronto focused, I apologize. But it's the most maddening fucking thing on earth. Is this fucking closing the lanes on the most important artery to get from the west side of the GTA into downtown Toronto. Close the lanes for 4 fucking years, which you suggested might mean
10 years.
10 years, maybe 10 to 15 years. 10 or 15 years, okay? It takes as long as to build the fucking crosstown LRT, okay? Like it could take for eternity because it's not fucking finished yet, okay? So this thing has gone well into effect.
Yeah.
And isn't Queen Street closed?
Half of Queen is closed already because they're building the Ontario line.
Holy fuck.
And then now the only fucking highway that runs downtown for our city, for people who don't know, it's not even huge. It's like maybe 4 lanes on each side, is closing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we only have Lakeshore?
Oh, and Lakeshore, forget it. Okay. Now, hold on, folks. Before everybody before all the comments start jumping in, like the people who live in Toronto say, well, we don't want you in fucking Toronto anyway. We don't want you people. We only want people in Toronto who live in Toronto.
I live in Toronto, and I still have to take the fucking the Gardiner to get downtown.
Look, and can I tell you the big one, in my opinion, the thing that's really fucking horrible? I was talking to my wife was talking to an employee who's on medical leave, and she said, my specialist is right downtown. There's a complex of some of the most famous hospitals in Ontario. They're all in the same place. It's on a street called University. Okay.
Hospital Lane, basically.
Basically, yeah. There's like there's
like 4 or 5 hospitals there alone.
There's more hospital action in the most, literally one of the most famous hospitals in Canada is the Toronto Sick Kids. Okay,
yeah.
It's right there, along with a whole bunch of other hospitals. And if her specialist is in that hospital. Not Sick Kids. She's in one of the other ones, but she's right there. She's got to go down there.
Yeah.
It's an hour and 50 minutes for sick people to have to travel. Well, shouldn't they could take transit? Fuck you. They're sick. Okay, like fuck yourselves. They are sick. Okay, they need help. Their specialist is there who's helping them, and you are turning that into fucking torture. Well, maybe they should live in Toronto. Fuck you. They don't have to. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, that is so fucking stupid. So hey, City of Toronto. Mayor Chow, who couldn't give one tiny fuck, okay? Not one fuck, all right? But listen here, you fucking planners, you fucking construction department, you road departments, fuck you all. Like, fuck yourselves. Honestly. It's the stupidest thing on earth, okay? And it's wrong, and fuck me. What do we need to do? Fire all of you fuckers, and we'll start all over again with people from another country? Because I watch these videos, right? Where you see the posts that they can build a hospital in 10 days, or they can fucking build a highway.
Build a bridge on the weekend.
Or I saw one where they had to put a ramp up. They put a ramp up so that the people could work underneath to fix the highway underneath. Okay.
There's options, but apparently not in Toronto.
Not in fucking Toronto. And I know what I'm going to hear. I'm going to hear the comments online are going to say, "Oh, Ron, you just don't understand this." Well, fuck you. Okay. Honestly, I understand fuckery. Okay. And closing all the major roads in Toronto is fuckery.
It is.
Okay. It's absolutely stupid. And it is ridiculous. And I don't give a shit what story anybody makes up about why it's necessary. And the favorite thing everybody says, "Oh, Ron, you just don't understand." Fuck you. I understand fine. You're a bunch of fucking idiots, okay? And you all need to be fired, and we got to start the fuck over again even if we have to go to fucking Switzerland or Sweden or some fucking place and find people who can do the right thing. You're fucking crazy to close these roads. See you next week, folks.
See ya.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.